Hello everyone, Dr. Wholesale here with Wholesaling 101, and this is part 2 of making a cash offer. So when I left off, I told you we had to pull comps. So we want to look at comps now first. And you want to try to pull about 4 or 5 different comps within a half mile that have sold in the past year. I actually prefer the past 6 months. So now I try to look at comps within a quarter-mile radius, but sometimes you have to go out to about a 2-mile, even larger radius, depending on your area and what kind of place you live in. Now I live in the DC metro area, so I can do a quarter of a mile and get pretty good comps. Okay, the smaller the radius, the more accurate the comps. So you want to try to get in as close in as possible. So what do we do next? The thing we have to do is work the preliminary numbers. So now we have some numbers to work with prior to meeting seller Bob. We know that hard money lenders will loan up to 65% of the after repair value of the home on an appraisal. So looking at the comps, it should be easy to get an appraisal of $100,000, and 65% is $65,000 less in the repairs. It's hard to guess of what repairs will be until you look at the home. Okay, so now we need to figure out our assignment fee. Personally, I like to go for $5,000, as I told you, and I can just up or down depending on the price I purchased the property for. So now we take the $65,000 figure we arrived at earlier, that's 65% of the property's value, subtract our assignment fee of $5,000, and so we need to get seller Bob home for $60,000 before we subtract any repairs. So we haven't subtracted repairs yet, so we're not paying $60,000 for the house, but this is where we started at because we weren't on a fee in it. So before we meet with seller Bob, the most we can pay for this home is $60,000 before we subtract any repairs. So we're leaving about $40,000 profit on the table for the investor we want to wholesale to. So with this scenario, seller Bob wants all cash and needs to close quickly. So we'll discuss in other videos ways to purchase this property as we go on. But from my experience, I could get this property under contract, wholesale it for $3,000 to $5,000 and close it in 30 days. You should be able to do the same thing using this information I'm providing to you. So now we're ready to get in the car and drive to seller Bob's property. But first, there are a couple more things we need to do on the way over to look at the property. First, we need to drive by the comp addresses. This will give us a comparison for seller Bob's property. So as we know what these homes recently sold for, this will give us a better value of the property seller Bob is selling for. The next thing we need to do is look at the neighborhood. Is this a war zone? Is it a middle-class neighborhood? Is it a poverty zone? With my system, we can still wholesale this house for all the scenarios that we encounter, but you just want to know what it is you're dealing with. You might not want to be in a war zone. Now, the last thing we need to do is be aware of is the actual property condition of the home seller Bob is selling. Is it clean and tidy? Are there parked cars that don't run in the driveway or that's on the street? Are the screens torn? How's the exterior, such as the paint and the siding, the roof? And what is our general overall impression of the property? This tells me if seller Bob has nightmare tenants and he's motivated to get rid of the property, or if he needs to sell it due to financial reasons. This is why I never try to negotiate over the phone. You can't do it without seeing it. You have to see the place to try to work your numbers. So by getting in the car and driving over to look at the property, you can tell a lot just by sitting in front of the house. Another reason I try not to negotiate price over the phone is once I see the property, I can better gauge what the seller's motivation is. So there are quite a few steps we need to do in order to get the purchase number where we need it. Failure to complete these steps will either make or break us in the wholesale real estate business, and you want to make it. So don't get caught up in coming up with the exact purchase number. At this stage, you just need to be close but not perfect. Our goal for this property is to make a quick $5,000 on a wholesale flip to another investor, not to rehab it ourselves. Our numbers need to be close, but they don't need to be perfect. The key in this video is to have a good idea of the after repair value or the fair market value. Okay? Once we know this, we can work our way back to determine the purchase number. The purpose of researching the deed is to know if and what kind of liens may be against the property, how long seller Bob has owned the property, and how much seller Bob paid for this property. Now, you're going to look at meeting the owner, inspecting the property, and verifying the seller's motivation. But that's for another video in part 3 of the all-cash deal, inspecting the property. This is Dr. Wholesaler, and I'll see you in the next video. Go out there and make you some money.